Hi, I'm Megan Powell from the Essex Bridge Center. Today's video is on the very first class in our discussion on the very fundamentals of how to make a preemptive opening bid. So let's get started. When we talk about preemptive openings or even preemptive overcalls, we are talking about holding a weak point count and a long suit. Now we're centering our efforts in this video on just preemptive opening bids. When we talk about a preemptive opening, what we are doing is making a bid that is higher than the standard one-level suit opening bid, right? The standard one-level opening bid is one club, one diamond, one heart, or one spade. But when we make a preemptive opening, we are opening higher than the one level. And we do that when we have a weak high card point count and a long suit. We are holding fewer than the 12 standard opening high card points, and we have at least 6 cards with honors in our suit. Now, what is our goal here? When we are very weak in high card points, you have to assume that the opponents, the players on either side of you, probably have your missing points. So between them, they have more points than my partner and I do. If that's true, then they might have an advantage on this hand because they have so many points. Now, my weak preemptive opening hand wants to earn a good score. And that's true even if it's a negative score at the end of the hand. There are good negative scores. So my job in the opening seat is to try and make a preemptive strike against the opponents who likely have more high card points than I do. I'm trying to make a bid so high up, higher than usual, to stop those players on either side of me from finding their probably better scoring contract, okay? When I jump as the very first bid in the auction, higher than the one level, I am showing weakness, not strength, all right? A preemptive opening bid is basically made with 5 to 9 high card points and a 6 card or longer suit with high honors. Now, before we get into the basics and the rules for making preemptive openings, it would be a good idea if we had an understanding of some of the fundamentals of duplicate scoring. It really would be helpful to understand how each board is scored once the hand is over. If you understand something about raw scoring, it will impact and assist you in your decision making in these kinds of competitive auctions. So if you've not attended our scoring workshops or you don't remember what you learned about raw scoring from the first scoring workshop, stop this video now, go over to our website and look at the scoring part one video, because it will help you understand a little bit about how raw scoring works when a hand is over, and will help you understand why perhaps a negative score is not necessarily a bad thing. So where would you find these scoring videos? You would go to our website, essexbridgecenter.com, and then on the main webpage, scroll down, you will find a row of boxes. Find the orange box at the far right of that row. It says helpful videos and downloads, and click on the icon in the center of that box. When you go to the next screen, find the scoring section. You'll look for the duplicate scoring part 1 video. There's even a scoring part 1 handout you can download and print that goes along with the video. But that's where you want to start if you don't understand about how scoring works. It absolutely impacts your decision making on preemptive openings. All right, so go do that first and then come back here if you need an update on scoring. Today's lesson is going to focus on how an opener, very first bidder in the auction, makes a preemptive weak opening bid holding weak high card points and a long suit. We will also talk about the next player, the next opponent. Maybe that opponent wants to make a competitive decision right after the opener's weak preemptive opening. They might make a simple overcall, they might pass, they might even do something called a penalty double. And so we're going to discuss that. The responder to the weak preemptive opener, we are not discussing today. That's a whole separate lesson, and we'll come to that after this lesson. We're only talking about the preemptive opening bid and whether or not the next player, the opponent to the preemptive opener, decides to get into the auction. So let's start off with the preemptive opening bid itself. A preemptive opening bid is the very first bid other than pass in an auction. No one else has made a suit bid or a no trump bid, right? This is the first meaningful bid in the auction. What do you need to make a preemptive opening bid? Well, you need a very specific point count, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 high card points. 10 points are too many points. Your hand is too strong to be considered a weak hand. 11 points, too strong to be considered a weak hand. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 high card points. You also need a long suit with at least 2 of the top 3 honors. You can even have 3 of the top 5 honors. Now, to make a preemptive opening bid, you will make your first bid based on the length of your suit. If you have a 6-card suit, you would make your opening bid on the 2 level. And you would bid 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, or 2 spades, but not 2 clubs. 2 clubs is reserved for a different opening bid. We're going to talk about that in our mega hand lessons. So a 2-level weak preemptive opening bid is in diamonds, hearts, or spades, and you need 6 cards. 7-card suit, you would preemptively open on the 3 level, 3 clubs, 3 diamonds, 3 hearts, 3 spades. Yes, it sounds high, doesn't it? But you have very long cards in the suit. The suit itself has some strength as a trump suit. You don't have a lot of other points. You're weak everywhere else, but you're relying on that length that in the suit that you're going to turn into a trump suit to help you out. If you had 8 or more cards in a suit, you would open at the 4 level. All right. If you are in a major suit, it would be 4 hearts or 4 spades. If you're in a minor suit, open 4 clubs or 4 diamonds with an 8-card minor. If you had 9 or more cards in the minor, honestly, open 5 clubs or 5 diamonds. You might as well. You might as well not allow the opponents in. Now, the preemptive opening bid, again, is the first bid in the auction other than pass. Nobody has made a suit bid or no trump bid. We talked about 2 of the requirements already, the point count and the length, but there are other requirements. In addition to having 5 to 9 high card points, in addition to having a 6-card or longer major suit with honors, you also have other requirements. So here's the next one. You do not also have a 4-card major in addition to whatever your 6 or longer card preemptive suit is. Do not make a preemptive opening bid if in addition to your long suit, you also have a 4-card major. Your hand is too strong. You want to wait and see if your partner might bid that major suit, and then you can more efficiently play in a major suit fit. You should not have more than 1 outside defensive winner. What does that mean? Outside of your 6-card, 7-card, 8-card preemptive suit, you should not have more than 1 ace or king in any of the other 3 suits. You can have 1. You can have an ace or a king in one of the other 3 suits, but not more than 1 of those kind of cards. If so, then your hand becomes a defensive hand against the opponents. You should play defense with that hand and not open a weak, high-level suit bid. And finally, vulnerability matters. You should not preempt when you are in something called unfavorable vulnerability. And there are 3 different kinds of vulnerability: favorable, equal, and unfavorable. So before I come back to talking about when to make this preemptive opening, which kind of vulnerability, let's make sure we understand how you recognize vulnerability. It is a concept in bridge that makes each hand just a little more interesting. And it absolutely affects your bidding, and it certainly affects scoring. Now, if we were in a live in-person bridge club, the cards you receive to play are going to come to you in a plastic board, 13 cards in each slot. And if you take a good look at this board on your screen, you'll notice that it has a label on the board. Let's look a little more closely at that label. This label identifies that the board I'm holding is board 3. It's got a number 3 on it. You'll also notice that east and west are marked in red. And that means that east and west are vulnerable on this board. And because north and south are marked in a white background, they are not vulnerable. Now, vulnerability is just a pattern that rotates from board to board to board to board, again, to make the game interesting and to give each partnership a chance every board, every other board or so, to be vulnerable or not vulnerable. Now, if I had, and this is true even in a digital world, whether you're in a live bridge world or whether you're in a digital world, all the boards follow the same pattern. No matter where you're playing, if you look at a board 1, everybody's background is sort of in white. I notice that you can see the green on south and east and west. That's just so that you can see the writing more clearly. What's more important is that you do not see red anywhere on board 1. Now, since that's the case, it means that nobody is vulnerable on board 1. Everybody has an essentially white background. But if you look at board 2, and this would be true whether you were in an online environment or in a live in-person bridge club, north and south are in red. They are vulnerable. East and west are not. If you look at board 3, east and west are vulnerable. North and south are not. If you look at board 4, all 4 players have a reddish background to their location. All 4 players are vulnerable. And then the pattern shuffles a little bit. In fact, what happens is we take this same pattern that was on number 1, we move it to the end, to number 8, and all the other ones move forward. That's how the pattern shuffles from every 4 boards. Whatever's up front goes to the end, everything moves up 1. So if you look at board 5 now has the same patterning that board 2 had. North and south invulnerable, east and west are not. If you look at board 6, had the same pattern that board 3 had. East and west are vulnerable, north and south are not. If you look at board 7, it has the same pattern that board 4 had. Everybody vulnerable. And if you look at board 8, has the same pattern as the first board in the first row. Nobody vulnerable. And so what would happen on board 9 is this pattern here would move to the end, and this pattern would move forward. So it is, again, a pattern in bridge boards that intend to make the game a little more challenging, a little more fun. And you have to think about vulnerability every time you bid, especially when you're talking about competitive bidding, and preemptive openings are a type of competitive bidding. You are trying to make an early competitive strike against your opponents. So vulnerability should be taken into consideration. Now, this is what the labels look like in a real live bridge club on actual plastic card holders, boards. If we were in a digital environment, this is what vulnerability would look like. On board 1, nobody's vulnerable. Notice that if we were in BBO or if we were in Shark Bridge, you would see these kinds of helpers when you bid. You would see the chip in the upper corner. You would see the bidding area in the middle of the screen. On board 1, nobody's vulnerable, so everybody is in white. But on board 2, north and south are vulnerable. Doesn't matter whether you're live or online. Anytime you look at a board that's marked board 2, north and south are vulnerable. And so you could see it even here on this poker chip in the upper left-hand corner while you're bidding, or you see it in the middle of your screen while you're bidding. Red is vulnerable, white is not. So here's another way to think about this. Preemptive opening bids should consider vulnerability. You should not preempt when you are in unfavorable vulnerability. The scoring will work very, very badly against you. So how do you know when to preempt? Favorable vulnerability is the best time for you to make a preemptive opening. And what does that mean? It means you are not vulnerable. You and your partner are in white. The opponents are vulnerable and they are in red. That is the best time for you and your partner to make preemptive opening bids. You are not vulnerable. You are in white on the poker chip or on the board, and the opponents are in red. They are vulnerable. That is the best time for you to make a preemptive opening bid. Now, equal vulnerability is fine. It's fine to preempt an equal vulnerability, and that means everybody is vulnerable. Everybody's in all red. All 4 players have a red, and that means it's a level kind of a playing field. or nobody is vulnerable, meaning that all players are all in white, like on board one. That's fine. It's a level-ish playing field then. What is not good is unfavorable vulnerability. And it means when you are in red, when you are vulnerable, but the opponents are in white, they are not vulnerable. Why is that true? It will come down to scoring. When you are vulnerable and an auction does not go your way and you do not make your contract and you're vulnerable, your score is going to be bad. Okay? So you do not want to make preemptive opening bids in this unfavorable vulnerability. You are red, the opponents are in white. All right. Now, when do you make a preemptive opening bid? A couple of things you have to know about preemptive openings. Remember that a preemptive opening bid is made as the very first real meaningful bid in an auction. It's the first bid other than a pass. Nobody's made a suit bid. Nobody's made a no trump bid. There could have been a pass, but nobody's made a suit or no trump bid. It is the first meaningful real bid in an auction. And because you're opening so high, higher than the one level, you are trying to make it difficult for anybody else to even step into this auction. You are bidding so high that you confuse the opponents. You make it difficult for them to not only think straight, you make it difficult for them to have a bidding conversation that helps each other understand their hands. The auction is already very high. It's very difficult for anybody else to know what to do. Now, another thing you need to know about preemptive opening bidding. When you make a preemptive opening bid and end up in a contract at a high level, you are not intended to make that contract. You are bidding intending to go down one or two. You assume you will not be successful in making your contract. You are expecting to go down one or even sometimes down two when you end up earning the preemptive contract. Now, why is this true? Remember that when you make a preemptive opening, you have only 5 to 9 high card points. You do not have your fair share of the 40-point deck. Who has the missing points? Usually, it's the players on either side of you. Your opponents usually have the cards, the points that you're missing. Now, it's also then true that that often pushes the opponents up to 25 points, up to a game level amount of points between them. And you have a long suit when you make a preemptive opening bid, 6 cards, 7 cards, 8 cards. And if you have a long suit, so do the opponents. So now what you've got is a pair of opponents on either side of you who have probable 25 points and their own long suit, a fit. If that's true, you don't want them to find their game contract with their fit. They will earn a very nice positive score, and they will hand you a very big negative score. Now, remember, preemptive contracts are not intended to make. They're intended to go down 1 or 2. Since the opponents now have your missing points and their own long suit and are likely to make a game contract, they're going to hand you and your partner a big negative score. But if you make a preemptive opening bid so high that the opponents just cannot converse, they cannot find their best contract, then when you play in your preemptive contract and it doesn't make, it goes down 1, it can actually be a better score, even if it's a negative score. Now, we're going to have to see that in action in a little while. And when we walk through a couple of hands together in a little bit, I'll show you what I mean. Let's start off by knowing whether we should make a preemptive opening bid or not. So here are some examples. They are in your packet. Let's look at these examples together. On example number 1, I've counted your high card points, and I count 7 high card points. Well, that's certainly not a standard 12 to 20 high card point opener, but you do have a 6-card heart suit. You have 2 of the top 3 honors in the heart suit. You have 5 to 9 high card points. No outside 4-card major. You don't have 4 cards in the other major. If you look at the entire hand, you don't even have outside of your heart suit an ace or a king. So you now don't have too many outside defensive tricks. And I'm going to assume that we are in favorable vulnerability. Okay. We're in favorable vulnerability. So this would be a good time for us to make a 2-heart preemptive opening bid. And now you've moved the auction high enough that the opponents would have to take a stand at 2 spades at a minimum. Or if they didn't have spades, they'd be into the 3 level if they wanted to get into this auction. That gets difficult for them to do. They don't know anything about their own partner's hands. Boy, that is hard for them to get into this auction. Let's look at the second hand. If you look at the second hand, we have an opening bid that has a seven high card points. This hand has a 7-card diamond suit. It has 2 of the top 3 honors. What would you bid with this hand? Well, I would bid pass. Why? Because in addition to this long diamond suit, we have a 4-card major. Do not make a preemptive opening if you have, in addition to your long suit, an outside 4-card major. Why? Your hand has too much defensive help for your partnership. You actually want to wait and see. Maybe your own partner will open spades, and if so, you could become the responder to your partner's opening hand. Your partner's higher point counts will stay hidden. Your diamond suit can just help take a lot of tricks, and you could find a spade fit with your own partner. Let's wait and see if your partner bids spades. Pass. If your partner does not bid spades, you can come back in with your diamond suit later. You can. Number 3, I counted 6 high card points in this hand, so not a 12-point opening hand. I see that we have an 8-card spade suit. It has at least 2 of the top 3 honors. In fact, it has 3 of the top 5 honors, all good. You do not have an outside 4-card major, so you don't have a 4-card heart suit in addition. You do not have more than 1 outside ace or king. You don't even have either of those. This is a very good preemptive opening. At what level would you open? Because I would very bravely open at the 4 level with an 8-card suit. Yeah, really. Really, remember, when you have a long suit, now so do the opponents. I'll bet they have a heart fit. You have 6 high card points. Where are your missing points? They're going to be sitting on either side of you. I'm going to bet the opponents have a 4-heart game contract. Don't let them find it. Bid 4 spades bravely, not intending to take 10 tricks. But even if you only go down 1 on this hand, that's still going to be a better negative score than the negative score the opponents will hand you when they make 4 hearts. You're vying for the best score possible under your circumstances. If you're going to get a negative score, get the smallest negative score you can. And that's what a preemptive opener will help you do. Let's look at hand 4. On hand 4, I count 12 high card points. Well, that sounds like a regular opener, doesn't it? Huh. But you have this 8-card spade suit. Isn't this a preempt if you have an 8-card suit? No. You have to have all the pieces. And one of those pieces is 5 to 9 high card points. When you have 12 to 20 high card points, you have a standard, regular old opening hand. Remember, a standard 1-level opener is 12 to 20 high card points and 5 or more cards in your major suit. Just because you have 8 of them doesn't mean you should bid higher. This is a 1 spade standard opening bid. On the next round of the auction, particularly if your responder didn't support your spades, you're going to be able to bid spades again, because honestly, with an 8-card spade suit, this is going to be the trump suit. But you need to hear some information from responder first. You want to make sure you gather as much information as possible on the first round. You might learn some things that will help you decide how high to bid in spades. So 1 spade on number 4. On hand 5, I count 10 high card points. I see a 6-card heart suit. Now, it does not have 2 of the top 3 honors, but it does have 3 of the top 5 honors. That's acceptable for a preemptive opening, either 2 of the top 3 or 3 of the top 5. You do not have an outside 4-card major. You have a couple of other problems, though. You have 2 outside defensive tricks. You're only allowed 1. Only 1. You have 2, the ace and the king of spades. That's 2 winners. That's not good. Your hand is worth more on a defensive level. More than that, you have 10 high card points. That's too many points to be considered a weak hand. You actually have your fair share of a 40 high card point deck. This hand is too strong to be considered a weak preemptive hand. What is that's going to mean is this: the opponents on either side of you are not going to have extra points. You're not missing points. They don't have your missing points. You're not missing any. So there's a pretty decent chance they don't have a game contract. You're not stopping them from finding a game contract. They're not going to hand you a big negative score if you let them in the auction. So don't give yourself extra trouble. You should pass. You do not have an opening bid. Not a preemptive opening bid, not a standard opening bid. Pass. You might be able to bid those hearts later as an overcall. You might be able to help your own partner depending on what your partner bids. But your initial bid is pass. All right, let's go over to the last hand, number 6. You have 6 high card points in this hand. So that's not a standard opener. Now you have a 7-card club suit. That club suit has 2 of the top 3 honors. In fact, it has 3 of the top 5 honors. You do not have an outside 4-card major. You do not have more than 1 outside ace or king. Can you open a minor suit with a preemptive opener? You absolutely can. You're still working to stop the opponents from finding their best contract. You're making a surgical strike against them right out of the gate. 3 clubs makes it a whole lot more difficult for the opponents now to get into the auction on the 3 level. They're going to have some extra juice in their hand, extra power, extra values to even think about bidding on the 3 level. So now we have a sense of when to make an opening preemptive bid. After you do so, the next player is your opponent to make a bid. What is that player thinking about? How does an opponent react after you've made a preemptive opening? So let's say that you're north, and let's say that you've opened 2 diamonds. That shows a 6-card diamond suit with 2 of the top 3 or 3 of the top 5 honors. You do not have an outside 4-card major suit. If you have an outside ace or king outside of the diamond suit, only 1, right? And let's say your vulnerability is excellent. Now, East would be the next player to make a bid. East is the opponent to your preemptive opening bid. What would East's opponent options be? Well, if you want to bid something other than pass, you're looking to make either a simple overcall or a penalty double. If you didn't meet the requirements for either of those, you would pass. So let's take each of these and talk about how an opponent might get into the auction with each of these options. Let's first of all talk about a simple overcall. What is a simple overcall over a preemptive opening? Honestly, it's exactly the same as a simple overcall over a standard opening. The biggest difference is this. When I've made a preemptive opening, I've started on, at the very least, the 2 level, which means there is no simple overcall on the 1 level. It doesn't exist. I didn't bid on the 1 level. You would have to start your simple overcall thinking on the 2 level. So what do you need to make a simple overcall on the 2 level? Well, assuming that you have a suit you can bid on the 2 level, you need 10 to 15 high card points. I'm sorry, that should be 10 to 16 high card points. 10 to 16 high card points. I don't know why it says 15. 10 to 16 high card points. That's a regular simple overcall on the 2 level. That's nothing new. You need 5 or more cards with at least 1 high honor card, an ace or a king in your 5-card suit. And then you could make a simple overcall above my 2 diamond preemptive opening. You could overcall 2 hearts or 2 spades. But what if you had to make a simple overcall on the 3-level opponent? Suppose my preemptive opening was 2 spades. There is no 2-level simple overcall anymore. You would have to overcall on the 3-level. What are the requirements to make a simple overcall on the 3-level? Well, you need the upper end of the overcall point range, 14, 15, 16 high card points. You need a 6-card suit. 5 cards are not enough for you to willy-nilly make an overcall on the 3-level without any knowledge of your partner's hand. 6 cards in a suit. You need 2 high honor cards, not just 1. Okay? And would you make a simple overcall on the 4-level? Probably not. That's too big a leap of faith for you. Instead, if I have made a preemptive overcall on the 4-level, you're going to learn to do something called a penalty double. All right, so Let's just talk about simple overcalls first. I have opened preemptively, I don't know, 2-level or 3-level. You are the next player to bid, my opponent. You are seated to my left. My preemptive opening is on your right. You can make a simple overcall on the 2-level or the 3-level. You need to meet the point requirement. You need to meet the length requirement in a suit with honors. Okay. Now, what if you wanted to make this thing I'm talking about as a penalty double? What's a penalty double? The penalty double is when you use the red X card in your bidding box against the opponent. Now, it has a lot of different meanings in bridge, that X card. But when the person who's made the preemptive opening has made that opening at 4 clubs or higher, 4 clubs, 4 diamonds, 4 hearts, 4 spades, 5 clubs, 5 diamonds, and so on. If the preemptive opening is made at 4 clubs or higher, and you take out and use that red X card, it's called the double card, it is then something called a penalty double. You are saying to the preemptive opener, nanny, nanny, boo-boo, you cannot make a 4-level weak preemptive contract. You have 5 to 9 high card points. How can you take 10 tricks? So you're saying to the preemptive opener, I don't think you can take 10 tricks or more, and I'm going to double you for penalty, because if I'm correct in assessing that you cannot take 10 tricks with my double, and you don't make 10 tricks, then I get a huge score because I guessed correctly by making this double. So a penalty double is when you penalize a preemptive opening bidder only on the 4-level or higher, saying, no, you can't take 10 tricks at the 4-level. I want you to give me extra points when you don't make your contract. If an opponent makes a double at 3 spades or below, it is not a penalty double. It's something called a takeout double. And if you don't know what a takeout double is, you'll see a lesson in it in your future. But it does not mean penalty if you double an opponent at 3 spades or below. So, opponent, you have to remember that the preemptive opener has a very weak point count. And when you take out that red X card and double at that 4-level or higher, you will probably get a decent score because the preemptive opener probably cannot take 10 tricks. So you're giving yourself some extra value when you're right, okay? Now, in the handout that you have and in other handouts, you have seen perhaps this kind of a layout of what's called a hand record. Here are your high card points counted for you. That's very helpful, right? And over here on this side is something called the deep finesse analysis. Now, this is always taken with a grain of salt, but it's a pretty good indication of who can take what contracts. It shows you what contracts can be made. It does not suggest what you should bid. It just tells you how many tricks you could make in each of the given contracts. For example, if you look at East and West's horizontal lines here, look at this here horizontally. This is East and West. And the vertical is no trump, spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs. It'll tell you that East and West, if they bid hearts, they could take 11 tricks, 5 hearts. Now, that doesn't mean you would bid 5 hearts. That's not a level of a contract we usually bid. We go to 4 hearts. It simply says you can take 5 hearts level worth of winning tricks. 11 tricks is the 5 level. It says you can take an over trick. You could bid 4 hearts and take an extra trick, East-West. Likewise, it also says that North and South, that's these horizontal lines up here, that if they bid 4 spades, they can only take 2 level amount of spades. That's only 8 tricks. They can't take 10 tricks. They would be down 2 in 4 spades if they went all the way to 4 spades. So it's giving you an indication of what contracts could be made. And this is going to be a helpful tool as we talk about preempts, because this thing will tell us, or at least give us a decent idea of which contracts can be made by each partnership. Now, I want to go through several hands with you now from your packet. I want to talk about the bidding. I want to talk about the bidding implications, all right, in terms of even the scoring. So let's do that together now. Are you ready? I'm going to start on board 1 in your packet. Here we go. I'm giving you the point count down here to make our lives easier. And it tells you that North is the dealer up here. Nobody is vulnerable. That is called equal vulnerability. North, you do not have 12 to 20 high card points. You have 8. So you do not have a standard one-level opening bid. But what do you have, North? You do have 5 to 9 high card points. You have a 7-card spade suit. You have 2 of the top 3 honors. In fact, you have 4 of the top 5 honors, don't you? So you have plenty of honors. You look at the rest of your hand. The other major suit is not an outside 4-card major. You do not additionally have 4 heart cards. Otherwise, you would not make a preemptive opening. You look for defensive outside winners. Do you have any aces or kings outside of your spade suit? No. You're allowed 1, but not more than 1. You don't even have any. And you look into the vulnerability. Now, nobody is vulnerable. And that means it's perfectly fine to make a preemptive opening. When nobody is vulnerable, it's a level playing field. It's perfectly fine. So if I were North, I would make a preemptive opening with this hand, and I'm going to base it on the length of my spade suit. With 7 spades, I'm going to make a preemptive opening on the 3 level. Yeah, 3 spades. Boy, that sounds scary, doesn't it? It really does. But take a look at your hand. You're only missing the ace, right? You're going to take 6 spade tricks all by yourself. And if your partner in South has any help at all for you, either in this suit or other suits, you might take an extra trick or 2. So you can take 6 of the 9 tricks you need all by yourself, absolutely. You just need a little help from your partner. And remember, you're not actually expecting to make this contract. You are expecting to go down 1. You can usually count on your partner for 1 or 2 winning tricks without even seeing her hand. That's just the way it goes. All right, so you're in 3 spades. You're a little frightened, but you know, it's the right thing to do with what you have. Now let's go look at East's hand. East, you're the next player to bid. You're the opponent. You have 13 high card points, and you would have opened 1 diamond, right? If North had passed, you would have opened your longest minor suit. But what can you do now, East? Well, here's your problem. You would have to bid on the 4 level, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would. And you do not have enough points to bid on the 4 level all by yourself, saying you have 25 points by yourself. You don't. You don't even have a suit that is like wildly long, 7 cards, to even think about bidding your own suit. You do not have a bid on the 4 level. That's where you'd have to go. And if you're thinking about doubling for penalty, don't. You should not double, East. It would not be a penalty double. It would be considered something called a takeout double. A penalty double happens when the preemptive opening is at the 4 level or higher. If you make a double below the 4 level, it's not a penalty double. We're now off on a whole different tangent, and you and your partner could end up someplace really bad. Look, East, you don't have the requirements to make a takeout double. You have 13 points, but that doesn't guarantee that you have an overcall bid. Having opening level points doesn't guarantee a bid. You need to pass, East. Play defense with your hand. Try and win tricks with your hand. Look at those nice hearts you have. Look at the ace of clubs. You're hoping to win 4 winners, if possible. You're not sure you can, but that's what you're hoping for, right? Okay, so you pass, opponent. And now we come to South. South is the responder to the opening preemptive bidder, and South has 10 high card points. Should South make a responding bid to the preemptive opener? Well, I'm going to tell you on this hand, no. Now, you don't know why yet. We still need to discuss responders' bidding rules. That's in the next lesson. But I will tell you that it's not enough here. It's not. We will discuss responders' rules. But right now, South, I made sure you did not actually have a bid here. South should pass. I know you're saying to yourself, isn't 10 points good? Not against a weak 5 to 9 point hand in North. It's not. So South will pass. We'll learn about South's responding bids in the next set of lessons. Now the auction goes to West. West is in 4th seat. West is the other opponent. East did not make an overcall. Since East passed, West could still be an opponent who makes an overcall. However, West has 9 high card points. How is she going to bid on the 4 level? That's not enough. That's not enough. West, you're going to have to pass as well. And this is the beauty of a preemptive opener. You open at such a high level, it makes it really, really difficult for the opponents to have a conversation. So now North is going to play this in a 3-spade contract. Is this a good contract for North? Well, remember that preemptive contracts are not intended to make. You are expecting to go down 1, maybe even down 2, because you are assuming the opponents have more high card points. Remember, North has only 8 high card points. It is possible that East and West have the missing points. They might have a game contract. All right. Here's another thing to remember. Preemptive contracts are hoping for the best score possible. And that's even the case if a preemptive contract goes down. Even if it doesn't make, it might still be a good contract. Now let's talk about why on this hand. East and West, take a look at those hands, East and West. They actually have a 4-heart contract. They have 8 hearts together. And when they add in their distribution, they're going to end up to about 25 points. They, if they had had a chance to talk about it, would have found 4 hearts together. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. They didn't have a chance to even talk once North made a preemptive opening bid all the way up at 3 spades. East and West would have earned a score of positive 420 points if they had found and made 4 hearts. Now, if they had done that, North, you would have earned a negative 420 points. If you had not preempted North, if you had passed North, and you had allowed East and West to find 4 hearts, and they bid and played 4 hearts, they would have handed you, North, a minus 420. But you wisely preempted 3 spades. And no, in theory on this hand, you cannot take your 9 necessary tricks. You are going to go down 1 in 3 spades. You are, but you're not vulnerable. And if you look at your ACBL scoring sheet, your hand down 1, not vulnerable, means you earn a negative 50 score. You hand East and West a positive 50. You give yourself a negative 50. Now, which score is better, North? Was it better for you to let East and West find 4 hearts and let them hand you a negative 420 when they make 4 hearts? Or is it better for you to preempt in 3 spades, go down 1, and give yourself a negative 50? Yeah, 5th grade number line, remember it? 0 in the middle, positive numbers on the right, negative numbers on the left. If you're going to earn a negative score, you want to earn the best negative score possible. A negative 50 is a better score than a negative 420. Not only that, but think about it this way. If we were playing in a game, let's say there were 7 tables in the game, and this is board 1, and you and I are North and South, and our real competitors are all of the other North-Souths in this game. They are all looking at board 1 just like we're looking at board 1. If at these 6 other tables, they thought, Freddie scared, and North passed, and they let East and West find 4 hearts at every other of those tables, 6 other tables in this game, then all of those other 6 tables end up earning a negative 420 for North-South. But you and I were smart. We bid the preemptive 3 spades. We didn't make it. We earned a negative 50. What just happened is this. Our negative 50 just beat every other North-South who earned a negative 420. And when we do all that special scoring at the end of the game, we do the match pointing, turning our raw scores into match points. What just happened is that you and I, even though we got a negative score, negative 50, we just earned 100% on this board. We just got what's called a top board. We beat every other East-West. They all vie for a bottom, for a 0 on this board. They weren't brave enough to make the preemptive opening in 3 spades when they should have. Scoring matters. Understanding when to use it to your advantage matters. And that's why I want you to go back and look at the scoring videos if you need to. Make a preemptive opening with the right criteria and the right vulnerability. Try and stop the players on either side of you who probably have better points and their own long suit. Okay, so that's board one. Let's go look at board two. East is our dealer this time. Let's take a look at East. And I've given you the scoring here. East does not have 12 to 20 points, but East does have 5 to 9 high card points. East has a 6-card heart suit with at least 2 of the top 3 honors or 3 of the top 5 honors. There is no outside 4-card major in addition to that heart suit. There is no more than one outside defensive trick. In fact, East doesn't have any outside aces or kings in other suits. Let's look at the vulnerability up here. The vulnerability is north-south is vulnerable and east-west is not. When you see that one pair is vulnerable, it implies the other pair is not. So the vulnerability is what's called favorable. That's when we are in white and the opponents are in red. We are not vulnerable east-west and north-south are. That is the best time to make a preemptive opening bid because we're not vulnerable. If we don't make the contract, we only take a tiny negative score. If we let the north-south find their best contract, and it's a game contract, and they make it, and they're vulnerable, they're going to hand us a huge negative score. You earn more points in a vulnerable game contract. You hand the opponents a bigger negative score in a vulnerable game contract. So when we are not vulnerable, it's a good time to preempt, but even more so when the opponents, north and south, are vulnerable because we don't want them handing us a big score if they find their fit. So this is a very good time for East to make a preemptive opening bid. Now with a 6-card suit, East should make a preemptive bid on the 2 level, 2 hearts. South, let's look at your hand. Let's see if you can get into the auction as the opponent. You have 14 high card points. And you would have opened 1 spade if East had passed, right? So can you make some kind of a bid in the overcall seat now? Well, South, for you to make a simple overcall at the 2 level, you need 10 to 16 high card points, and you absolutely have that with 14. You need a 5-card suit with at least 1 high honor that you can still bid at the 2 level. And you have a 5-card spade suit with 3 honors. You absolutely, absolutely should bid 2 spades. What if you did not have 5 spade cards and in fact what you had was a long club suit? You would have to bid it at the 3 level, right? But then you have to meet the 3 level simple overcall rules, a 6-card suit with at least 2 honors and 14, 15, 16 points. The good news is you had a spade suit, so you could fit it on the 2 level, 2 spades. Now, West is the responder to the preemptive opener. And West, you have 3 lousy points. You don't have any help for East's preempt. And again, we haven't even begun to discuss what responder might do. There are special rules. We'll start talking about it in our next lesson. I made sure West couldn't meet any of those rules. So therefore, West, you're passing. Now we go to North's advancing hand. Now, North, you are the partner to South's overcaller. You know that South must have 10 to 16 overcalling points to make a 2-level overcall, right? You know that South has at least 5 spade cards, right? So North, you look at your hand. You have 3-card support in South's overcall spade suit. You have a spade fit. You get to add 1 distribution point for the club doubleton. North, you have 15 advancing points. You know South has 10. You know right now there are 25 points. If I were North, I would absolutely go to 4 spades. What if you didn't know there was absolutely 25 points, but you thought there could be? Go to 3 spades. All right? If you still think 25 is possible, you just don't know whether South is 10 points or 16 points. If you think South is in the middle, with your points, you could invite. And that would be North if you didn't have quite 15. Suppose you had a little less, but you still thought 25 was possible. You could say 3 spades. But you know 25 is there, so you go right to 4 spades. Now, South is going to play in 4 spades. What about East-West's preemptive opening? Well, you tried East. You tried to slow down North and South. It didn't work. Should you now bid your hearts again or do something else? Absolutely not. When you make a preemptive opening bid, you are done in the auction. You have fully described your hand. It doesn't improve. It doesn't change. The only time that you might make a change is if your own responder makes what's called a forcing bid, which we'll talk about in our next lessons. If your responder makes a forcing bid, then you, preemptive opener, might bid again. But otherwise, you are going to pass. East passes. South, there's no point in you bidding, right? We're already at game. Pass. And West, you didn't bid the first time. You're passing as well. Now, look, sometimes a preemptive opening stops the opponents. We saw that in our first board. But sometimes it doesn't. You tried. The best you could do is try. You force them to bid at a higher level. Maybe it'll stop them, but maybe it won't. Look, your own partner in West is going to be on opening lead against 4 spades. Hopefully what West is going to do is lead hearts to you. And maybe you can take a trick or two in hearts before they start trumping your suit. All right, that's the best you can hope for sometimes. You tried, it doesn't always work. All right, let's go to board 3. South, take a look at, whoa, South, look at your hand. Holy cow. Well, look at South. You have 5 to 9 high card points, so you do not have a 12-point regular opener. You have 8 heart cards. You have at least 2 of the top 3 or 3 of the top 5 honors. You do not have an outside 4-card major. Outside of your heart suit, you do not have more than 1 ace or king. You don't even have any. And let's look at vulnerability up here. Ooh, you are in favorable vulnerability. That means the opponents are vulnerable, East and West. They're in red. You and your partner are not vulnerable. You're in white. Best time to make a preempt. South should make a preemptive opening, and this is going to hurt a little bit. You should preempt at the 4 level. Yeah, all the way up on the 4 level, 4 hearts. Look at your hand, South. If your partner doesn't have the king, then there is a possibility you will lose 1 trick, but you're going to take 7 heart winners all by yourself. You're going to take 7 of the 10 tricks all by yourself. And if your partner North has any winners for you, well, then you're going to take a little more. You remember, you're not supposed to make your contract. You're not expecting to take 10 tricks. You're expecting to get really close, but not necessarily 10. This is a good deal. 4 hearts. If you have a long suit, so do the opponents. In fact, if you have a long suit, sometimes the opponents have 2 long suits. All right. And you only have 7 high card points. Somebody has your missing points. Yeah, somebody. And it's probably the opponents. So 4 hearts is the right place to bid here. Now, West is the next player to bid, and West is fuming. Right, West? You have 17 high card points. You would have made an opening bid in 1 spade if South had passed. What are you going to do now? Well, here's the thing. Should you bid a simple overcall in 4 spades all by yourself without knowing anything about your partner's hand? Should you? You could. Should you? I don't think I would. Here's the problem. You don't know anything about East's hand. What if East doesn't have 3 spade cards? There's just no way for you to know. What if all the rest of the points are actually sitting in North's hand and not East's hand? There's no way for you to know. You would be taking an enormous leap of faith. And if you're wrong, you might get doubled for penalty by the opponents. If you guess wrong and you're down just 1 or 2, it might not be so bad. But what if you're down 3 or 4? Your negative score is going to be huge, and that's not your goal. You're vulnerable, West. It's entirely possible that if North and South decide that you've made a real big error, they will double you for penalty, West. And then if you're down 2 vulnerable doubled, minus 300 for you. If you're down 3 vulnerable and doubled, minus 500 points. You're not looking to get that big a negative score. You're trying to get either a positive score or a tiny negative score. So what can West do to help herself? West can make a penalty double. Here's why. South made a preemptive opening bid on the 4 level or higher. If West makes a double now, that red X button, West is saying, South, you cannot take 10 tricks and 4 hearts. I've got too many points in my own hand. I've got too many winners. I bet you can't do it at all. And therefore, I'm going to double you for penalty. And when I'm right, because you can't make the contract, I will get even more positive points. So West should make a penalty double when it's pretty clear that South does not have the goods to take 10 tricks. Usually, when you make a penalty double, first of all, It's because the opponent has made a preemptive opening on the 4 level or higher, but also you, the doubler, probably have 15, 16 or more points of your own. That's a way for you to have a pretty good idea that you can make a penalty double. Now, North, you're the responder to the opener. What are you going to bid? Anything you do makes it worse, right? What are you going to bid? Pass. East, you're the advancer. You're not going to bid. You're not going to change the double your partner said. Pass. South, you have nothing to bid the second time around. Anything you do makes it worse. Remember, if you're going to bid again, they're just going to double you again. Pass. So now South has the contract in 4 hearts doubled for penalty. And this is often shown as 4HX, just so you know. Was this still a good choice for South's preemptive hand? Well, if you look at East and West, they would have found 4 spades. Take a look at their hand. Take a look at what they can make down here in the deep finesse box. They would have found a 4-spade contract if you had passed South. If you had been fraidy scared and not done what you were supposed to do, East and West would have found 4 spades. They would have. And they can make 4 spades. They can take 10 tricks. In fact, they can take 11 tricks in 4 spades. That's why it says 5 here. If East and West take 11 tricks and 4 spades, their score vulnerable is going to be a positive 650 points. And South, they're going to hand you a negative 650. So was your 4-heart contract still a good deal? You did get doubled. I will tell you, you cannot make your contract. In fact, you might even be down 2 on this hand. But here's the thing. 4 hearts doubled, down 2, not vulnerable, is minus 300. That's the score you will earn. You will hand North, East, West plus 300. But if you had let East, West find 4 spades, they would have handed you minus 650 for their 11 winning tricks. Isn't minus 300 a better score than minus 650? Preemptive bids very often give the preemptor a decent score, even if it's a negative score. Okay, let's go look at board 4. West has 5 to 9 high card points, a 7-card diamond suit with 2 of the top 3 or 3 of the top 5. There is no outside 4-card major. There is no more than 1 outside defensive trick. Let's look at the vulnerability. Well, everybody's vulnerable. That's called equal vulnerability. That's perfectly fine for a preempt, no worries. And yes, you can make a preempt in a minor suit. With a 7-card suit, you do it on the 3 level. Now, North, you're the opponent. You'd like to compete, but already we're at the 3 level. What would you need to compete at the 3 level? Well, you need 6 cards in a suit to bid your own suit. We'll take a look at North's hand. I see a 6-card spade suit. Check. North, you would need to have at least 2 honors in that spade suit. I see 3. Check. North, you need the upper end of the overcall point range, 14, 15, 16 points. I see 16 points. Check. Well, if I were North, I would not let West get away with that 3-diamond preemptive opening. I would make a simple overcall on 3 spades. East is the responder to West's preemptive opener. You don't have any kind of help. Pass. South, you have to consider whether you're going to bid. North has overcalled in 3 spades. You do not even have a spade fit, do you, South? You have just 7 minimum points. You know that North has 14 to 16 points, but honestly, you just don't have enough help. You don't even have a fit. You don't have enough points to get to 25. Do not go to 4 spades. Pass. And West's preemptive hand, you're passing. You're not bidding again. So now, North has taken away the contract from the preemptive opener and is going to play in 3 spades. And North can take at least 9 tricks, probably can take 10 tricks. North is going to earn a score of positive 170, and West, even though you tried to preempt, you're going to get a score of negative 170. Is that okay? Well, I'll tell you this much. Even though you made a preempt in 3 diamonds, you would have been down many more than you wanted to. You actually would have been down 2. Vulnerable. You would have earned a negative 200. So while you did try and make a preempt and North did take it away from you, honestly, you just got a better score. Negative 170 from North is actually better than negative 200 if you had gone down 2 in your 3-diamond preempt. So sometimes it works out for you even when you don't get the contract. One last board I want to talk about. Here's the last one. North is our dealer. North has 5 to 9 high card points, 6 cards in the spade suit, 2 of the top 3 honors, 3 of the top 5 honors. North, you have an outside 4-card major. Ooh, that's not good. You're not supposed to have that outside 4-card major. Oh, that's not good. You're not supposed to have more than one outside ace or king. Well, you don't. That's fine. Let's look at the vulnerability. Uh-oh. North, south are vulnerable. East, west are not. That is not a level playing field. North and south, if you are vulnerable and the opponents aren't, that is a terrible time to make a preempt. You are in unfavorable vulnerability. That is not good. That means the negative score you're going to earn is going to be very high. You should not make a preemptive opening in 2 spades here. You don't meet the requirements. Unfavorable vulnerability is going to mean a large negative score. And you might actually have a heart fit, but if you make a preemptive 2-spade bid, you are basically telling south you don't have hearts. Don't bother. If I were north, I would pass. I would pass. Let's see if south does something constructive for us. Now, east, you're passing, right? East, you don't have a bid with 7 points. You don't have an opening bid, so you're passing, and we come to south. South, you're the next person who has a chance to make an opening bid. You have 16 high card points. You have a 5-card or longer major. If I were south, I would open 1 heart. Now, west, you could still make a simple overcall for your partnership. You would need 8 to 16 high card points to bid a spade suit on the 1 level, and you have that point count. But you need a 5-card suit with honors. An overcall is intended to win tricks early if you don't get the contract. You have no high face cards. You need an ace or a king in an overcall suit. You don't have it. You don't have winning tricks in that 5-card suit. Pass. You don't have an overcall. North. Well, now your role has changed. You were thinking about being a preemptive opener, but now you just became a responder. You have 4 heart cards to go with south's 5 heart cards. You know there's a fit. You get to add 3 distribution points. Your 8 high card points just became 11 invitational responding points. You should invite in 3 hearts. Wow, tables have been turned, haven't they? Now, east is passing, and south gets to think about it. South, you get to add 3 points for a void. You know that north is promising you 10, 11, 12 points. You now have plenty of points to get to 25, and that's where we go, 4 hearts. Now, we did find an 8-card fit in hearts, and south's bigger point count hand stays hidden as declarer. Those spades in north are going to be helpful anyway. So a preemptive opening is not always made just because you have a long suit and weak points. You have to meet the other requirements. An unfavorably vulnerable hand is a bad idea. You're going to get a terrible score. And if you have, in addition to your long suit, an outside 4-card major, wait, because you'll be telling partner you don't have that. Your partner might not even make an opening bid. So just wait and see what partner does after you pass. Maybe you can come in later, okay? So some takeaways. Preemptive openings are made before any other bids other than pass have taken place in an auction. And they're made higher than the 1 level. You are trying to strike strategically at the opponents by removing the 1 level of the auction. You make a preemptive opening when you hold weak high card points, but a long suit. So now, preemptive openings. When you make a preemptive opening, you are trying to stop the opponents from getting into the auction. They likely have more points than you do. You are not intending to make your preemptive contract. You are expecting to go down 1, maybe sometimes down 2. But even so, you are hoping for a decent score, even if it's a negative score. What do you need to make a preemptive opening? 5 to 9 high card points, a long suit, at least 6 cards in the suit with 2 of the top 3 or 3 of the top 5 honors. You do not also have an outside 4-card major. You do not have more than 1 outside ace or king in another suit. Your vulnerability needs to be favorable or equal, not unfavorable. If you have a 6-card suit, you will open your suit at the 2 level, with the exception of 2 clubs. If you have a 6-card club suit, you pass. Don't open it at the 3 level. Don't lie to your partner. Just pass. 7-card suit, you open on the 3 level. 8-card or longer suit, you open on the 4 level. Now, the opponent, after you have made a preemptive opening, what will the next player do? Well, they're going to look for a simple overcall. They need a 5-card or longer suit to make a simple overcall on the 2 level. They need 10 to 16 points. If they're forced to make a simple overcall on the 3 level, then they need to narrow and make sure they make a more specific bid. It needs to be the upper end of that overcall range, 14, 15, 16 points. It needs to be a 6-card suit with 2 high honors. An opponent can also make a penalty double, and you would do this, opponents, only if the preemptive opener is at the 4 level or higher. Then you can make a penalty double. It's pretty clear that the preemptive opener can't take 10 tricks. And you usually have 15 or more high card points, doublers, in order to make that penalty double. You usually need to have a little extra power. Lastly, opponents, after you've made your bid, potentially, the auction will move to the responder, to the preemptive opener, the 3rd player to bid. But responders, we didn't talk about you today. You might bid. We need a lot more time to discuss what responders' options are, and that we'll do starting in our next lesson. And one of the most important things to understand is how scoring works at the end of a hand. It really will impact how well you understand how to bid. So these are competitive auctions we're working on now. You need to know whether or not you have the goods to compete. Because again, you won't always make the contract you're competing with. But even if you don't make the contract, you might still get a decent score, even if it's a negative score. We're always looking to get either a positive score or the lowest negative score possible. All right, so that's our first lesson in preemptive openings. We will continue in this series with talking about how a responder gets into this action, all right? If you have questions, you'll send them to me. Otherwise, I'll see you in class. Take care.